Alright, let's talk about Tsukuyomi and a new primal that we just got in patch 4.3. So, Tsukuyomi is definitely one of those encounters where, one, you cannot be greedy for DPS, as you can see that I'm doing here, and your mistakes are definitely going to either cause you to wipe or cause your whole entire party to wipe. So, I want to briefly go over some of the common mistakes that I've seen a lot of different players make when it comes to either meteors or strats or, light blade, dark blade, and yeah, so let's go over some of that stuff. Alright, so one of the more common mistakes that I see is where should we spread for her lance and where should we also spread for the meteors. I see a bunch of different strategies, but the one I want to provide for you guys, I'm sure you guys have seen it around for sure, but pretty much it would be to have our DPS over at C, our healers at B, and our tanks at A. Now, if this works out for you, what I usually do here is I also put a flag down. So if I ever happen to just get confused, I can just take a quick peek at my minimap and know, hey, all right, cool. This is where I have to go, or this is where I should be standing for the next mechanic. I don't see a lot of people mess up at this part where she has to determine what the next mechanic is coming out from Nightfall, the gun or the lance. If you can't really tell which one it is, I would definitely advise watching either Miss Tech's video or Mr. Happy's video, and you can follow that guide, and that'll definitely get in your feed. So when you're in the encounter, you can kind of go through some of these common strategies that we can go through. Now, for this next mechanic here, she's going to pull out her lance, and we can go to our spots, and as you can see, the DPS are at C, healers are at B, and tanks are at A. So we spread evenly so none of us get clipped here. I've seen a lot of people make mistakes where they don't know where they should be going. You should always at all times be going to where your letter is for the lance and also for the meteors. So if you're a ranged DPS, I would advise to either, you can stand at C majority of the time, but we'll cover some of that later on. Alright, so the only bit of advice that I can probably give for this portion of the fight would probably be to just make sure that she's not suffering either over 45 more or less at this point of taking down Asahi. Once he's down, you can just finish off Xenos and you should be good. A lot of groups don't really run into any sort of issues with this, so I think you should be perfectly fine. It's nothing you have to really look out for except for just maintaining, big AoE damage. Alright, so this is really the meat and potatoes on what I wanted to touch upon. Like I mentioned earlier, I do know that meteors happen to be a big issue for a lot of groups, but if you follow these simple instructions, it will be no problem and you'll definitely be able to handle them without having any issues. Alright, so once she comes out of her ultimate attack, you have a bit of time to keep DPSing the boss. I would maintain just keep as much DPS on the boss as much as you can until she activates her next mechanic. Now, this is, like I said, where I see a lot of people mess up. Once her next mechanic goes off, what you need to do is you need to watch out for your debuff. Once your debuff is determined, so let's see right here, what I have here is I have the Black Moon, and since I have the Black Moon, what I need to do is I need to cleanse it with white. So that is one common mistake that I see a lot of people do. Once we go over here, some people will have a white moon and you would have to clear that with the dark side of the platform. Once you cleanse your debuff, you should have the opposite moon now. Now that you have the opposite moon, what I personally like to do is I like to let this stack hit at least 4. So when it hits 4, that's when I go over to the moon side and I cleanse it with the white so I get the maximum amount of time. But you need to be fast. You cannot sleep on that 4th stack. If you sleep on that 4th stack, you will die. Now, at this part of the fight is, again, like I said, where I see a lot of people mess up is after she casts Nightfall, she's going to have a stack. And you need to keep in mind that as she has a stack, immediately we need to go to our spots to drop our meteors. After we stack and she hits us with the next mechanic, that's when we need to run over to where our meteors are. So now I'm assigned with my meteor. I'm gonna go to C. Now I'm gonna point something out, not to be a douchebag, but the summoner there, her mistake was that she was assuming she was going to C when a safe spot is D, which could have resulted in her death if she wasn't sprinting. So now that I left my meteor there, we go back to D where the safe spot is, and that's when the 3 meteors drop. Something that I just want to point out here is that you want to watch out for the meteor that is the opposite color of the ground, is because that's where we'll be going to cleanse the next debuff. Not really a lot of mistakes I see a lot of people here. It's pretty obvious. You just stand inside the donut and don't stand inside of the AoE. You want to make sure that you are just a little quick and you are standing toward the wall so that you might not get clipped by that AoE, because it does go off pretty fast. Alright, so after the next reprimand, we want to look out for the next fan AoE, which is Zashiki. Now Zashiki right here, as you can see, D, C, and B are all covered with fans. Now the safe spot would be A because there are no fans there. What you can do is you can kind of angle your camera up a little bit so you have an idea of where the fans fall, as you can see here. And you know the safe spot where to run to, which would be A. So whatever is already covered by fans, you don't want to be on that side, but whatever side is free, that's the side that you want to run to. I see a lot of people mess up on there. So as long as you're on that safe spot and you're paying attention, really, if you want, angling your camera up a little bit can definitely, help out with just the perspective of how you can see it. Will definitely, prevent deaths or anything like that. Now, I see a lot of people either stop DPSing at this point because they expect another crazy attack to happen, but no, you're good. What you really want to do is stand on the boss's butt for the next mechanic and then just keep DPSing, because it's just a big cone AoE that was just only meant for the tank. So at that point, you can just keep DPSing and she's going to go into the next moon phase. So it's the same thing as last time, the same exact thing, except instead of having a stack, she's gonna have us go to our assigned meteor spots, but I'll go over that when the time comes. So now, it may seem like there are a lot of different things happening at the same exact time, but as long as you're paying attention to your debuff and you're standing on the correct side, and even if you get confused, you can just swap really quickly. Just keep in mind that you need to, if you're gonna refresh your stack, you need to stand there for at least 3 seconds. Now, the next Nightfall right here. Alright, so after this Nightfall, she's gonna assign us to spread to our appropriate spots. She's gonna hit us 3 times, 1 time for the DPS, 1 time for the healer, and 1 time for the tank. Now, if you're not standing in your correct spot, this could result in either a wipe for someone standing in the same place twice, or you can successfully just run over to where your meteors need to be. Alright, so at this point, after she does that attack and we cleanse our debuff, this is a really good opportunity to keep DPSing as much as you possibly can, because all she does is an raid-wide AoE, and that's about it. So you can keep DPSing until the next mechanic, and I will just keep an eye out for the cast bars. Now, the next part of the next mechanic, which is Bright Blade, is another huge opportunity for us to sit down, learn, and see how we can recover from some of our mistakes. Now, we need to always keep in mind, with Bright Blade, you need to be on the right side of her, and you need to run away. So as long as you're on the right side and you are ranged, you will have no problem with your DPS. After that, she's going to go back into the moon and she will cast Dark Blade. Now, Dark Blade, as long as she's casting Bright Blade first, you go to the opposite side of her and just stack close in with the party. Now, you can maintain your DPS. She's going to do another reprimand and then she's going to cast Lunacy. What this is going to be is this is going to be fans again, but what we really want to pay attention to is we want to pay attention to the order that the fans land in. And one of the players will be marked with a stack marker, which looks like it's me, and you need to go to the last fan that landed. What I personally like to do is again angle my camera so I can see what is happening. Once we get hit with that first attack, it's going to be exactly similar to Shinryu's Akmorn, so it's going to hit us 3 times. And as long as you're still not standing in those fans, you will not get that vulnerability down. Immediately, right out of the Akmorn, she's going to cast Dark Blade with a white moon on her back. So what we need to do is we need to dodge to the left, and we also need to stay away from her. Available personally, what I like to do is during the tank buster, if you have an LB3, let your melee DPS do it. This helps out if you're trying to clear. Right after that, she's going to cast Hagetsu. Hagetsu is the same exact order as the fans, except 3 of us will be tagged with Akmorn. And we're only going to get hit once, so as long as you're moving out of those fans in time, you won't get clipped by the fans and you won't get, murdered by that Akmorn. Alright, those are some of the common mistakes, like I said, that I usually see during this fight. I hope that hopefully it was, clear, and if you guys are trying to go for it clear, no pun intended, that this was able to help you guys out. So, thank you a lot, and I'll see you guys next time.